Okay, in your brain, I want you to reach all the way back to Module 1 when we talked about security in general. And we had some models of security. One was the CIA model, and one was the AAA model, authentication, authorization, and accounting. We are going to recap this information right now in case you've forgotten it or didn't learn it very well from the start. When we talk about authentication, what we're talking about is that phase in a connection in which you prove you are who you say you are. It can be done through a number of different methods, passwords, pins, a card, something that proves you are who you say you are. And there are we're going to talk a little bit more about authentication in a little bit when we talk in part 2. However, I want you to notice that access control starts with this identification phase. And by the way, some writers separate identification and authentication. Identification being that statement of who you are, for example, your username, and then authentication being that part where you put in the password. We're not going to get that picky, but be aware that some authors do that. Authorization then is that once you're authenticated, and this is a phase after authentication, that now we can say what you can and cannot do while you're on that network or that computer system. These are usually done through something called an access control list. And when we get down to the next section after this, section 3, we will talk about these access control lists and we'll look at some examples of those. And finally, accounting or auditing, they mean the same thing, and that is tracking what the user is doing, because what point would it be to have policies if we don't have some way of showing what people do and don't do? So these authorizations are the actual policies, and then the accounting is how do we log what they did. So this is the logging phase, if you will. Now, typically this doesn't really prevent anything. All it does is give us hindsight. However, if your users are aware that you're logging, it may prevent some activity. Not all, but it may have some preventive function built into it as well. All right, in the next video then, we're going to take on this first one, authentication, and we're going to take a closer look at it and talk about it in terms of both wired and wireless systems.